and welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and today I'm going to be telling you 6 things that I loved about Peloton instructor, fellow red lipstick lover, and now author, Miss Tunde Oyeneyin's book, Speak. This book just came out this week. I've been waiting for it for forever. I had it pre-ordered. I could not wait to tear open the Amazon package when it finally showed up. Being a book lover and being a Peloton lover, I knew I had to get my hands on this book. I knew I had to read it. I don't think this needs too much of an introduction. I'm just gonna be telling you stuff I learned and loved from this book, so let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so number 1, I'm just gonna put this out there. I love a celebrity memoir. I love a celebrity memoir. I don't care if they're trashy or good or if I even knew who the celebrity was before I picked it up. They're one of my favorite genres of book. I'm a trash human being, so sue me. And obviously, I'm a member of the Peloton cult, so this was just a no-brainer. I had to get my hands on this one. I didn't know anything really about Tunde. I don't ride with her often. All the time that I spend with her is doing like arms and light weights classes. I didn't know much about her. Everything that I did know, I learned from the Peloton Fitness Flip podcast, which is also fantastic. I highly recommend you check that out. They just ended the first season this week. So knowing that I loved a celebrity memoir and knowing that I love Peloton, I knew I just had to pick up this book and find out as much about Tunde as I possibly could. She did not disappoint. This is chock full of fun information. I think some of it, like, you may know if you ride with her, because I feel like they tell stories about themselves, but I don't ride with her that often, so a lot of it was news to me. So I love just learning about Tunde. So number 2, this book is set up kind of based around the acronym SPEAK that Tunde lives her life by. Obviously, it's named after like speaking up and speaking your truth, but she also lives her life by the acronym SPEAK, which stands for, I have no notes down here, so I apologize if I keep looking down. Surrender, power, empathy, authenticity, and knowledge. So the entire book, the chapters, the stories that she tells kind of fall into one of those sort of areas. She pairs stories with the different pieces of that acronym. And because of that, I thought that this was going to be like more like self-helpy kind of. I felt like before I picked it up that it could err on that side, especially, I mean, we all know, all of the instructors do this, but Tunde does it a lot. How they talk during class, like the way that they use their words as motivation, and you feel like you're being spoken to by a motivational speaker. I kind of thought this was gonna be more like that, and it really wasn't, so I was pleasantly surprised by that. Number 3, I expected it to be self-helpy. It really wasn't at all. It was motivational, of course, but it wasn't like shoving anything down your throat. What it was, and what I really liked about the structure of this, was it felt autobiographical, but at the same time, it felt very much like a story with Tunde as the main character. Does that make sense? Like, can you draw that distinction in your mind? I feel like they did a really good job of writing it in such a way where you become interested in, instead of just reading the book and wanting to find out information about Tunde, about a celebrity, you are interested in her as a whole person, as just, it could be anybody walking down the street, could be the character of a fiction book. It felt very much like they took the time to really think about the flow of the book. It didn't necessarily go in chronological order. Something that I feel like a lot of autobiographies don't do as well is developing the other characters, if you will, the people in their lives that they're writing about. And she really, like, I'm calling them characters, but there are people in this book who you understand who they are to Tunde, but you also understand who they are as people. It's like they really flushed out this whole world, and I really enjoyed that. It really, like, it blurred a line of nonfiction for me. Not that I'm not saying that I don't think everything she wrote is true. I just mean it was just written really well, really written like a story. I liked that a lot. Number 4, I loved reading about her Peloton origin story. I did not really understand anything about the Peloton process and how they hire people, and auditioning and things like that. My only knowledge of the Peloton process is the story Jen Sherman tells over and over again about how she emailed John Foley and became the first Peloton instructor. I maybe you know this if you ride with her. This is one of these things that maybe she has talked about in rides, but I just never knew that she actually auditioned for Peloton twice and didn't get the job the first time around. So she had been teaching cycling classes at a studio in LA where she was living at the time, and Cody Rigsby reached out to her and asked her to come and audition for Peloton. And so she went and she met Allie Love, and Allie said, just so you know, you might not get it the first time, a lot of people don't. And so Tunde went in, she auditioned, she felt like she killed it. She went back to LA, got the email from Cody saying, I'm sorry, but we're taking it in a different direction. Talks a lot about, how that makes her feel and why she thinks she didn't get it, whatever. But what I thought was so cool was that they never forgot about her, and they did end up bringing her back for another audition, obviously. I think it was like a year or two later, and she went through the whole process and she met everybody and she interviewed, did more than just the auditioning, and she obviously got the job. And I found that so fascinating. I really didn't understand or think to understand what the Peloton hiring process was like and how they go about finding new instructors, and I just found it so fascinating. And I can't imagine that she didn't get the job the first time around. That blows my mind because she's incredible. She's so incredible. Now I'm so interested in all the other instructors. I want to know everybody's Peloton origin story. It's just it's so fascinating to me. Number 5, I think that a big theme in this book is grief, and it was really touching to read about and connect with something that we all experience. And she writes about it in so many different ways. She writes about, I don't even know if this is necessarily how she intended it, but it's how I interpreted it. So she writes about grief in terms of death of a family member, and she talks about breakups and the ends of relationships and how hard it can be to let certain things go. And she talks about moving to a new city more than once and loneliness. And she talks about the pandemic and going from working in an environment that she needed people to draw energy from, like being a cycling instructor. You draw the energy from the people in the room, to all of a sudden being alone in that room and figuring out how to create those same connections. And she talks about grief in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement and what she felt she needed to hide from or shy away from on social media when she became a Peloton instructor and kind of became a public figure. And I felt like grief was sewn in such a way that you can really understand how it has affected her. You can draw from it and see how she used grief to push herself forward, and you can really learn a lot from how she's handled so many things that have happened to her in her life that are not always the most positive things. And she writes about it a lot better than I'm saying it right now. So trust me, just pick the book up, it's really good. And number 6, this is my favorite part of the entire book, and honestly, it's the thing that I learned from the podcast that made me think and made me know that I needed to get to know Tunde better. And it's the stories and the experiences she writes about growing up plus size. She opens the book with a story about a dress that doesn't fit. And I feel like it's so powerful to read about the journey of someone who was once plus sized, who was able to overcome the self-hatred that can come along with the size of your body, and that's not just plus size people. Skinny people hate themselves too. I feel like as a plus size person and as a plus size person who is falling in love with fitness, sometimes I just get annoyed when I see the instructor on the other side of my screen and they're so fit and they're so young and they're so, like, you know, sporty and athletic, and they talk about things and modifications and shit like that, and you just want to be like, sometimes, like, you have no idea. You've never lived in a body like mine. You have no idea what it's like. You have no idea how hard I'm working. And that is nothing against, or I'm not trying to be disparaging to other instructors. It's just to know that she's someone who gets it. She's someone who was overweight, who has those just ingrained things in your mind of just like things that people say to you that they don't even realize are hurting you. Like the first time when you're kids and someone asks you what size pants you wear, and you tell them, you know, oh, I wear a kid size 12, and they're like, oh my god, I wear a kid size 8. Like, those memories just like ingrain and stick in your brain. And she writes about all that, and it makes me respect her a lot as a fitness instructor. And also, it's not a story about weight loss. It's not a story about diet. It's not like, I'm so much better now than I was when I was fat. Her body and her muscles and all of that, her lifestyle is a consequence of falling in love with fitness, not a consequence of hating yourself to the point where you're skinny. I don't know if any of that makes sense. I don't understand. It's really hard to articulate, and I feel like my other girlies out there who are plus size, who are not or have not always been happy with their body, but want to practice self-love or at least body neutrality, I think that a lot of what Tunde has to say will really resonate with you, because it definitely did with me. So that was my favorite part of the book. I just feel like I can relate to her on a different level than I can relate to other Peloton instructors now. And I just loved it. I really loved it. It was 200 or so pages, and I just ate it up. And as a celebrity memoir, I give it 5 stars. As just a regular book, I give it 5 stars. As a Peloton lover, I highly recommend that every other Peloton lover out there picks it up and reads it and learns something, and it's just fantastic. I give it 5 stars. I loved it. I want to read it again. I loved it so much. But that's all I have for you today. I will see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye!